Good evening, everybody. Would you please stand and join us in the pledge? Mr. Puglia.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Supervisor Wareham?
Here.
Councilman McCarthy?
Here.
Councilwoman Noack? Here. Councilman Roman?
Here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, welcome. This is the public hearing on the budget this evening. However, before we start, we do have a number of resolutions that came up that need to be approved before the November 6th meeting. So if you'll bear with us, we're gonna read these resolutions, Madam Clerk, and then we're gonna vote on them first.
On the town board to approve the following. Number one, the receiver of taxes to include a levy on 2018-2019 tax bills for unpaid solid waste fees and/or charges against various property owners. Number two, the highway department to rent a wheel loader from Edward Airbar Incorporated.
Councilman Loman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareham?
Yes.
The town board to authorize the town clerk to issue the following permit. Number one, to the Community Association of Greater St. James for the annual Halloween costume party.
Councilman Loman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareham?
Yes.
The town board to authorize the town clerk to advertise for the following bid to be returned to town hall at 11 a.m. on the date indicated. Bid number 18-087, annual contract for the removal and processing of curbside recyclable material.
Councilman Loman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Noack?
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy?
Yes.
Supervisor Wareham?
Yes. That concludes resolutions. Madam Clerk, would you read number 5?
Public hearing. The town board to consider the 2019 preliminary budget for the town of Smithtown.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this evening, it's the public hearing on the budget. The 3-minute rule will be in effect, so please be mindful of that. If you are coming up to speak, you have 3 minutes. When the warning goes off, that indicates you have 1 minute. We are going to hear each speaker, and at the conclusion of their 3 minutes, Comptroller Mr. Musnug or myself will attempt to answer your questions. We will remain here in the boardroom after the public hearing, so if anyone has any extensive questions they need to ask about the budget, we will be available to do so after the meeting. So please be mindful of that. This is on the public hearing on the budget only. There will be no other town issues, so if you're going to come up to speak at the podium, it has to be only related to the town budget. That's what this hearing is for tonight. Anything other than that, certainly our next board meeting is November 6th, if you have any other issues. Before we begin the speakers, I want to make a few statements and I want to make a few corrections on some misinformation. First of all, let me start by commending Mr. Musnug, the Comptroller, and Paul Urbano, who's here in the room, for the fine job they did on the budget. Gentlemen, thank you very much. It's a very tedious task and it's important business. So I thank them for their assistance, and I want to thank the town board for all the assistance they've given me. It was a collaborative effort by all of us to come to this budget. Number one, it was reported in the press that we passed the budget and eliminated 12 items, full-time items in the highway department. That is incorrect. We eliminated no items in this budget. There were no reductions in the workforce. We actually increased the workforce by 4 full-time personnel. 2 in the highway, 2 in the parks department. So that information was incorrect. I also want to make a comment. There's been a lot of talk, and this is the forum for it, about elected official raises. First of all, I want to state that I take full responsibility for those proposals, and I want to explain why I did it. When we took office in January, this administration knew we were going to have to make some governmental changes. That would be necessary to enable us to do the things that we promised the voters that we would do, like downtown business revitalization, improvements in parks, improvements in infrastructure. improvements in our town buildings. So we have a pretty good track record of accomplishing those goals. All throughout Long Island, to accomplish those goals, supervisors' administrations primarily consist of their clerical staff, the supervisor, and in almost every other municipality that's akin to Smithtown across the island, they have 2 additional employees in the supervisor's office. They're both full-time positions. One is a full-time deputy supervisor, and the other position is a full-time chief of staff and or a full-time economic development manager. In our research, both of those full-time items, if I were to have instituted them in my office, which I would need to do to move this town forward, they average about $236,000 for both items, plus benefits, which is approximately another 50% of that salary. So you're looking at $300,000 or more to staff my office with those personnel. What we did in this budget, we sat down and we made a calculated accounting of how we could do it for less money and still accomplish the goals. In consultation with the town council, we've decided to increase the council salary, not for an individual, it's the position, because some of us will be in these positions going forward, some of us may not be. There may be different folks in these positions. However, for the position, I increased those salaries for the council position by $10,000 approximately. That's $40,000. 3 other elected officials, including myself, received $3,000. So estimated another 10, that's $50,000. And I included a $30,000 part-time position in the supervisor's office as a government liaison. That's been approved through personnel. The total of that staffing is $80,000, as opposed to $230,000 plus benefits. So I submit to the public that I believe we have truly economically staffed what we need to move this town forward and keep our promises while saving between $150,000 and $200,000 of salaries. And I will tell you those salaries savings will be used for other purposes, such as 2 union contracts are coming up, and I see some of my union friends in this audience. So as much money as we can save to give a fair and equitable contract, that was the purpose behind this. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on why we did it. I could tell you the calculations are that if I did not do that and left the salaries static, the taxpayer would have saved $1.55 for the year on their tax bill. So in my opinion, we've done a pretty good economic job, and we acted in good faith on behalf of the taxpayers of this town. That being said, I want to thank you for giving me that time, and we will begin with speakers. And again, it's on the town budget only, so Madam Clerk.
Amy Fortunato.
My name's Amy Fortunato. I live at 16 Colonial Road. That issue is, of course, important to me, the budget proposed that has to do with the raises. I'm not sure of how you based that calculation. The towns nearby are, Brookhaven, Islip, they're all a lot bigger than Smithtown. But you made some calculations. I disagree with the comparison. But as a taxpayer, I find it offensive that the town board is prepared to approve a 12.5% raise for themselves. I've never received that in my lifetime. This raise is scheduled to be voted on and approved on Election Day. This deprives voters of the ability to hold politicians to account at the ballot box. I question the logic of our part-time board giving themselves a 12.5% pay increase when taxpayers are feeling significant financial pressure from the additional increases to our property tax. This is too soon, too much. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you.
Full disclosure, Ms. Fortunato, you are running for town council, correct?
Yes, my name is Amy Fortunato. I'm running for town council here in Smithtown.
Thank you very much.
Gerald LaRocca.
Good evening. My name is Gerard LaRocco. I live at 55 Broadway in Smithtown. And the reason why I came here was specifically for the budget. A couple other things just arose, so I'm just going to add to my little less than 3-minute speech here. My family came back to Smithtown from Corona, Queens, originally in the mid-60s. My 91-year-old mother is still residing in this township, thank God, in the wonderful Fairfield complex in St. James. She just does not want to remove herself from this township. She has great ties. As far as I'm concerned, that's the generation that assisted in building this township. With that said, I'll be now brief. I fully support this budget for this calendar year. The reasons being is that, and again, I see it on paper here, that it's a little over $10 million. This $10 million budget is unequivocally necessary to preserve our township. This amount is due to the fact that I know our per capita spending, and residing here most of my life, was always, well, kept very tight, let's put it that way. But I feel that over the last few decades, okay, and speaking specifically, say, over the last 25 years, if you take that $10 million and divide it, we're talking about only $400 additional thousand could have been spent each year over that 25-year period. But now we're stuck with something. And I believe in this board, okay? And in today's environment, with a strong economy, we need to invest and preserve the town of Smithtown before it's no longer sustainable. In closing, I'd like to just commend the new supervisor, the incumbents, and new position councilman, and the entire town of Smithtown, the supervisors, the staff, for their new and fresh ideology, for changing and transitioning to bring this great township back and revitalize it to its full potential. Already our roads, parks, and beaches have begun to come alive again in a very short amount of time. With new projects to begin within Kings Park, Wisconsin, St. James, Main Street, Smithtown. As far as the salary increases go, I beg to differ with anybody in this room or anybody that wants to stop me anywhere in the township and have a brief conversation to say that if anybody would condemn anyone for being duly compensated for their knowledge,
Mr. LaRocca, you're gonna have to
worth ethic,
wrap it up.
and commitment, I really beg to differ. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
William Caperso.
Hi, my name's William Caperso, live at 248 2nd Avenue, St. James. Just want to say a couple things. First, I want to thank the supervisor, the town council, superintendent of highways, and superintendent of parks, and all the town employees for the wonderful job done. In a year, the unthinkable was accomplished. The town is on a path to a revitalization that many thought couldn't be done. Expectations were far exceeded, and this only comes from hard work, dedication, and commitment. It is obvious from what has been accomplished that these elected officials have been working overtime for all of us. The Highway Department and Parks Department should be applauded on what they have done. They brought in new talent. They completed a host of new projects without raising taxes and piercing the 2% tax cap. I mean, that's unheard of today. Just for you folks over here, you've earned tenfold any raise that you may receive. While some may object to this due to personal gain or personal agendas, you may get slandered on Facebook. I urge you to be proud of what you have accomplished, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I fully support the budget.
Thank you very much.
Natalie Weinstein. You want to put it at the end? Sure. Jim Connors.
Good evening, Town Board and Supervisor. My name is Jim Connors, 2 Regal Court in St. James. I came here today in support. I saw some of the stuff that was being written in the paper about the budget, and I found it, curious that the focus on the budget, a large budget, almost 199-page budget, with the large numbers involved, the multiple employees, the focus was on this small, 12% increase for the council members. I come from a world, earnings in this country have there's a strong record of earnings and people being concerned about what they earn for what they work. And earnings has come under the evaluation of you do X, you get Y, and earnings. I kind of look at it as that earnings really should be about worth. What is the value of a position? What is the value of a person? We want to view our town as looking to do better things than other towns in the neighboring areas. We want our town leaders to be able to negotiate with businesses, other municipalities, other groups, and what we put out as their salary is important to convey what we feel our leaders are worth. So to me, the numbers that we were just talking about, 12%, I'm an attorney, and back in 2011, the judges in New York State were in uproar because they were earning about $132,000 a year, which was far below the $175,000 that federal judges were earning. That was a discrepancy for almost 12 years. And they got a 28% raise. But when that's factored in over 12 years of being held at the same position, this, looking at it as a 12.5% increase this year, I think is really hyper-focused, small-minded. We expect big things from our town. We want big things from our leaders. And I feel like that worth is, frankly, I have expectations when I give, a value or worth, and I think you guys have earned the salary. And from a personal perspective, I've seen you all at public and community events. I disagree with the contention that this is a part-time job or a part-time board position, because frankly, you're never off. You're always, your phone has to be answered. You're always an advocate for this town and the business and the goals of this town. Whenever you walk to and talk to any business, any politician, municipality, a citizen, a child, you're never off. It's never part-time. And to think of it as a part-time board position, frankly, that concerns me if someone thinks of it as a part-time board position. Thank you for your service, and I support the budget.
Thank you, sir.
Mario Matera.
Good evening, Town Board. Supervisor Wareheim, Councilwoman Lynn Nowick, Deputy Supervisor Tom McCarthy, Lisa Inzarello, and Tommy Lohman. You guys are a fresh air. You guys are a breath of fresh air, what you are bringing forward to us to finally bring us again into the 21st century. To go sit here and say about this little bit of raise, you guys put in overtime. With emails, text messages, phone calls. I'm at a lot of political functions for what I do for my living. And you guys are all there. And I'm going to tell you something, when you're away from your families and everything like that, this little raise that you guys will be getting is nothing compared to what your supervisor is bringing forward, that has the respect for you council people to take these extra jobs to do. And to take these extra jobs to do is time away from your family. Even with the Highway Superintendent Murphy, sitting down with him, I actually have to tell him, Bob, stop talking about work. Can you talk about something else? It doesn't end. I know what I do. I commend everybody up here. What's happening with St. James, which is depressed. You sit there, you see the empty stores, and certain stores come in. You can't do anything. You can't do anything about it without the infrastructure. We have a supervisor and council people that have a vision to make sure right away the first order of business in January was to get the $2.4 million for that water main. That water main was the start of something. We had a meeting and we sat there and how wonderful it was, the energy. That in other words, yeah, we're going to be destroying Lake Avenue, but it's going to happen, and we know that we're going to get this dry sewer main in, which is unheard of, and what's working, and what this town supervisor has been doing for that. To go and say that the budget's too high, the budget is too high, and they were going to get new positions open. No, he made sure he's conservative, that he's given everybody at the town board level to do more, and they want to do more. So you know what? I commend this budget. I'm for this budget. Please, let's move forward. Can we vote on this tonight for this budget? Because it should be voted on tonight. Because, you know what, guys? I really, really appreciate what you've been doing and what you care. and every single buddy up here, what you guys care and the time you've been putting in. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Natalie Weinstein.
Is it on the budget?
Yes.
So, I don't know whether I'm up here as a private citizen, a person who loves St. James, the president of Celebrate St. James, an owner of 2 buildings in St. James. I'm saying all this because for the first time, since I'm here, since 1973, something is actually happening in St. James. I haven't been told that if people want to shop, they should go to the mall. I haven't been told that, oh, we can't do anything to help you. Since this administration has come into power in January, more has been accomplished for our community than I have seen since I'm here in 1973. And I have to say that I always wondered why it was so important not to spend money, and because we were then going to be in very good shape and the value of our homes would be better when our downtowns were dying. For me, as a designer, I tell my clients, if you buy something of quality, you'll have it for longer. If you spend money on something that's good, it will always hold its value. It's the same thing with our homes. When we want to sell our homes, the value of our homes are directly related to our downtown districts, where we live, our schools, our administration, what we're doing for the community. A lot has happened in St. James in the last year or 2. Organizations have sprung up. All I have seen since then is a community and spirit that I have never seen before. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. And some of you should keep your day jobs. Maybe you're not the best actors in the world. But at least we know that you're doing right for the citizens of St. James if you're not going to appear on the stage. And so for some of you who never appeared on the stage, I'll forgive you anyway. But for the first time, I have really seen some wonderful things happening here. People coming together. So a special thank you. If we're going to spend money, I know you're going to spend money. Please
Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the record, I was one of the people who was unable to be in Miss Weinstein's play. The bad actor she's talking about is Councilman Lohman, because he wasn't at
4 lines.
How could he mess that up?
Carrie Moore.
Is it the budget?
Says budget.
Hello everyone, Carrie Marr, 6th Avenue in St. James. I'm here both as a resident today and as a business owner in our great town of Smithtown, which is so great, and to see you live in the bubble, you work in the bubble, and you are so appreciative of everything that happens in St. James. But we have the great town of Smithtown. One thing that I do want to commend is one office that gets taken for granted for a while. In our business as funeral directors, we call upon Vinnie Pulio's office, the town clerk, where we deal with families who need to get a burial permit, who need to get a cremation permit. These things happen after 5 o'clock. So when we go to Susan's house and enjoy her lovely dog, or Vinnie's house with coffee, they're attending to us. Our business is very sensitive, and especially with time. So I commend you guys as far as everything that you do, because you are the step side of everything. But, you know, as far as going to highway superintendent, I cannot say enough for Robert Murphy. He is one gentleman that is looking not as just for today, but for the future. So as much as he's looking at what to make great, he's looking to what make great and then plus. So I back him as far as everything that he's doing. I'm sure he's under the radar getting ready for our snow. He's doing a beautiful job with everything that he's doing. As far as the one wonderful aspect is, you want to work for somebody who everybody admires, everybody loves Bob Murphy. So when you give the guys some coffee in the morning and you say, hey guys, you love Bob Murphy. Oh my God, he's the greatest boss in the world, which is true. Everyone loves him. And I commend him on the job he's doing, the leadership he sends out to everybody. Going on to our lovely town council. I cannot say it enough. You're working with us hand in hand. You're answering our emails, our phone calls, and you're getting back to us, which I'm sure you're cringing saying, oh God, I have to call her. But I enjoy everything that you're doing. And as far as our supervisor, thank you. I cannot say it enough. With no disrespect to the past government, it has been a change for the last 10 months. And what the one thing is, with all these other departments, we're working as a partnership. You're not here, we're not there, we're working on one level. And I feel our tax dollars are being used properly. And you know what? Everyone's time is worth their brains, and we're making new jobs here. We're doing such a great job here, and I have to commend you on everything that you're doing, Supervisor. So as far as a whole, of town of Smithtown, thank you, thank you. I am so happy to be in our town of where we live. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's it? Okay, what I'd like to do before we finish up, number one, has everybody here in the last couple of days read about the recyclable crisis that we are having? If you haven't, we sent our trucks over to the Brookhaven landfill where we deposit our single stream recyclables today in Brookhaven, and because that contract is no longer in effect, our trucks were sent back. We have enough storage for our recyclable program in Smithtown for approximately 3 weeks. After that, so this town council and myself and the comptroller have to scamper now. We have 3 weeks to come up with an alternative on what to do with all the recyclables that you put out. We are working on it. We went to work immediately, working on a number of issues along with other municipalities that join us, and hopefully we will come out with some kind of conclusion. What I will tell you as far as the budget goes, before we vote on it, it has to be voted on before November 20th. Our comptroller has done some estimates. We may, in fact, have to add $32 more to the solid waste fee to be able to dispose of our recyclables until we come up with a permanent alternative. So I want the residents of Smithtown to understand that we are on top of it. And I'm sure with the council I have here and the support, we'll find a way to accomplish that. I'd also ask Mr. Musnug, if he would, to just give a brief overview of the budget, how much it is, about our fiscal strength, etc. If you don't mind, I think the residents should hear that.
Thank you, Supervisor. I'll be glad to do so. We have, the total budget amounts to $109 million, and that covers the general fund, our highway fund, our street lighting funds, and our Smithtown Landing Country Club. It amounts to let me just get some paper here. I wasn't expecting to. 1 second. Yeah, okay. So the increase that we're expecting to increase is 2.35% per household from the prior year, amounting to approximately it amounts to $29.88 increase per $5,500 assessed household, which translates again to 2.35% increase. The tax cap is limited to 2%, so you might say, well, how did we not pierce the tax cap? The tax cap has various adjustments in there for growth in the assessed valuations and also for carryover. Supervisor Vecchio did a fine job also of not increasing taxes, and therefore we had some carryover money that we could use to help mitigate the tax increase this year. So we actually could have increased taxes by approximately 4% and still stayed within the tax cap limitation. But instead, supervisor and the town board have kept the tax increase limited to only 2.35%. And they did that by also utilizing some of the fund balance that had been retained from prior years. And quite frankly, we used $1 million less in fund balance in this year's budget than we did in the prior years. Most of that from the residential waste district, that decreased by about $1 million. So we are using past fund balances to support the operating budget, but for the general fund, it's only $735,000. But that translates into keeping your taxes lower and only increasing it by 2.35%. It also takes into account the capital projects fund. Capital projects for this year are proposed to be $10.7 million. A significant portion of that is $2 million for the supervisor's initiative on Flynn Memorial Park. I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Sure. Are all you familiar with Flynn Memorial Park and Kings Park? Years ago when that park was developed, USSSA softball organization, the entire East Coast used to have their playoffs championships at Flynn Memorial Park right here in Smithtown. It was an absolute boon to the economy. Every hotel, every restaurant, we gave passes to our beaches. They came here with their families, and they stayed for 7 to 10 days, depending on how well they did in the championship. We feel very confident that we can invite them back. They've been gone now for probably 15 or 16 years because we have done no improvements in that facility. They've gone elsewhere to facilities that have been modernized. We're embarking on a 2-year project, $2 million in 19, $2 million in 20, and we will have a state-of-the-art athletic complex for our residents and our little leagues and our adult softball players that live here in Smithtown. But we will, I'm confident we will be able to bring those playoffs back to Smithtown to come into our business districts and our businesses, and that's going to be a net plus for us, and we're confident that we can do that. So that's why we are embarking on that particular project. There'll be synthetic fields, there'll be a centralized concession, it'll be a state-of-the-art complex right here in Smithtown to be proud of.
Mr. Matera referred to the St. James Water District. That was another $2.4 million out of the $10 million that's proposed for the capital plan. Overall, for the $10,790,000 in capital projects, for non-village residents, it would cost them $13.88 per $5,500 assessed house, and $9.63 for village residents. So for all of those improvements, it's amounting to approximately $14. The St. James residents, unfortunately, because they're users of the water district, and there's a user fee for that, that will have an impact because they will be the direct beneficiaries of that water main and sewer piping. That will impact them $62 for a year. So I think that summarizes. I mean, if you want to go over the capital plan, it's...
No, we just, you'll be able to see it. It'll be online. One of the things that we have done different in this administration as well, we are going to produce and vote on the capital budget right at the beginning of the year. In the past, the capital budget was proposed, but it was generally voted on sometime around maybe May or June. And that really, in fact, put that capital budget that was advertised, nothing really got done till the following year. You would skip an entire year because by the time you bond the money, go through an estoppel period, put everything in place, go out to bid, there wasn't enough time. So the council decided to move this right up, do it with the budget. We think it's a smart way to go because we can accomplish just about everything that we budgeted for and advertised to you, the public. We should be able to accomplish all those goals by year's end. So we thought that was important to do. Also, the fiscal strength of Smithtown remains the same. So one of the reasons that we kept the surplus that we did, and I think it's, at the end of 18 projected to be total 18 million or so.
19 million.
$19 million in surplus. That's important to us, so it shows you that this board did not frivolously spend the money and was spending us into oblivion. We're not doing that. We're in the same exact fiscal position as we have been for the last number of years. We attained this year a AAA bond rating again, and that means this borrowing that we're gonna do is gonna be borrowed at the lowest possible interest rate. We also amped that up a little bit so that we get that borrowing done before interest rates rise, which the comptroller has indicated will probably happen next year. So that's a savings in itself. So we've done it that way. The New York State Controller grades municipalities every year. Smithtown and Southold, out of all the towns in Suffolk, are the only two towns that have a 0 fiscal stress rating. So that's something to be real proud of. Residents should be proud of that. It's us and Southold, correct?
That's correct.
The only two that the New York State Controller graded that way. So, in essence, I think we put forth a good budget. I'm proud of this council. They have all been given 5 or 6 departments. They are going to supervise them for that money that I propose to give them. They have full accountability and responsibility for those departments. And I will tell you that in my opinion, and you know I've been around here a long time, it's a great town board. We're gonna do great things for the public. We're on the move, and we're happy to do it for you folks. So I thank you all for attending. Be well, and,
We have one more person who would like to speak.
okay.
Mary Wozniak, but just so you know, you can only speak about the budget.
Yes, it has to do with the highway budget.
Okay, and 3 minutes, ma'am.
Well, I have 2 questions too.
Well, when you're done with your 3 minutes, we'll attempt to answer those.
Okay, this summer, along River Road, from south of Edgewood, almost down to the railroad tracks, the highway department came without notifying the neighbors and took down a number of 100-year-old trees and put in a new sidewalk. They stopped at our house, and I was told by the highway department that they would continue down to the railroad tracks sometime in the future. Now I see here there's an increase in the highway budget by 3.7%, with 5.5 million for roads, curbs, and sidewalks. So question 1 is, are you going to continue this sidewalk to nowhere? In other words, they told me the sidewalk would go from the new sidewalk, the expanded sidewalk, would go from Edgewood down to the railroad tracks, so people in wheelchairs could get down to the railroad tracks. Now, why would people in wheelchairs want to get down to the railroad tracks? Because there's no sidewalk then that takes them into town. The problem with them going further south is that we have a large concrete wall in front of our home. If you take that down to expand the sidewalk by a few inches, our hill will crumble. They will be taking down 150-year-old trees, and the same thing for my 2 neighbors to the south. So we want to know if you will be expanding southward using this money in the budget, because we do not want to pay for that as Smithtown residents. We'd like to use that money to bring in trees to replace the 100-year-old trees that were taken down. Is there anything in the budget? That's question 2. Is there anything in the budget for planting trees? We were told the trees would be planted right away. Then we heard they won't be planted for 8 years. The ones that were to replace the ones that were taken down from Edgewood down to our home.
Okay.
So that's it. Those are my 2
Okay,
questions.
could you, if you can stay after the meeting, we're pretty much finished, right? Is there any more speakers?
Well,
Right.
would other people like to know about it too?
Well,
About-
if you can stay, we will, I don't, the highway superintendent isn't here.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what his 2019 road program is yet. He hasn't made it up yet. We usually get it after the first of the year.
Mhm.
But if you want to stay, certainly we'll stay. Give us all the information, and Mr. Lohman is the liaison to the highway department. We'll stay as well. If you give us all the information, we'll contact Mr. Murphy, we'll go over all the details and get back to you.
Will you get back to me? Because I asked for Mr. Murphy for an appointment, I never got one.
Well, if I can assure you that myself and Mr. Loman and everybody else in this council, if we say we'll get back to you, we will get back to you.
All right, thank you,
You're welcome.
thank you.
Okay, I move to close the meeting?
Second. Supervisor Wareham,
Yes?
Councilman McCarthy,
Yes.
Councilwoman Noah,
Yes.
Councilman Loman.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your evening.